I would like to call this meeting to order of the Santa Barbara Unified School District's Board of Education for Tuesday, February 13th, 2018. And we will begin by rising to say the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Matsuoka.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Buenas noches, les damos la bienvenida a todos ustedes. Tenemos aparatos disponibles para la interpretación en español. Si no han conseguido o necesitan, los tenemos por esas puertas dobles que están abiertas aquí. Una vez más, bienvenidos.
Thank you. And we do have headsets available for the hearing impaired on the side tables, if anyone in the audience would like a headset. So I'd also like to, item C5, the announcement of closed session action. Items B3 and 4, which are student discipline and student readmissions, will be addressed during our action agenda. We did have a motion made on B5, public employee discipline. The board approved by unanimous vote an agreement providing for the resignation of a certified employee effective June 30th, 2018. Before the effective date of the resignation, the employee will remain on paid administrative leave. On the effective date of the resignation, the employee will receive a payment equal to 1/2 of the employee's annual salary and benefits. The motion was made by Ms. Parker. It was seconded by Ms. Sims-Moten, and it was agreed to unanimously by the board. Moving forward, we have the superintendent's report.
So I'm pleased to get to really a moment of recognition and celebration. It got delayed by fire and floods and just schedules. So this is a time for the board and community to appreciate the efforts of the Santa Barbara High School Foundation as part of the Peabody Stadium project. And so I'm going to invite Greg Tebby up to the podium, and he'll share his comments, and I'm sure he'll have help with the history and the celebration of what this is tonight. So Greg, welcome.
Thank you. On behalf of the Foundation for Santa Barbara High School and our over 800 donors, I'm just very pleased and proud to present this very large check in the amount of $5 million to the Santa Barbara School Districts. Thank you. To help fund the Peabody Stadium track and field renovation at Santa Barbara High School. And once completed, this is going to be an invaluable asset to the Santa Barbara High School community and also the greater Santa Barbara community. And really this project was a collaborative effort between the Santa Barbara School District, the state of California, the Foundation for Santa Barbara High School, and our donors, who are comprised of alumni from around the country, local individuals, local businesses, and private foundations. So it truly was a collaborative effort, and I'm just thrilled to have been part of it. A couple quick thank yous. I mean, there are so many people that I could thank, but I would like to thank the school board, Dr. Matsuoka for all your help, Dr. Becchio, principal at Santa Barbara High School, and Katie Jacobs, my partner in crime over the last few years, who is the former director of development for the foundation. There's so many others I could thank, but it was just a team effort. So that's it from me. Thank you.
Great. So I'm going to show some brief updates via the slides, and then I'm going to invite the board to come down and take a picture with the members of the foundation. So for those of you that are not familiar with this project, the Peabody Stadium has been there since 1925. It has served the community well, almost, 93 years. But it was time for a new home for the Santa Barbara High School program, the PE department, and the student athletes. So you can see the work in progress. It is an amazingly large project. To fit that stadium into the new shape requires carving out the hillsides and building brand new retaining walls. The picture on the bottom right is a huge storm drain that runs underneath the new stadium. We did lose some time during the fire and the floods just because of traffic and working conditions. So original completion date was April 15th. I remember that day because it's a tax day, but in 2019. And so it's a long project. We think 15 days will be added, but I think they'll be able to make it up because in a good way and a bad way, there's no rain. And so they've been able to continue to work on this project. A landscape contract will be awarded soon. And is there one more slide, Brian? That's it? Okay. So if you ever want to get a peek at it, if you're near Santa Barbara High School, you can go up to the fences and, look through the screens, and it is quite a project. So I would love for board members to come on down to the floor, and let's take a picture with this symbolic but huge check of $5 million.
Or unless Brian can turn off the background. Tell us where Katie wants to. So everyone ready? 1, 2, 3. Yes, 1, 2, 3.
That concludes comments.
All right, thank you, Mr. Matsuoka. I would just like to take this moment to welcome everyone here. It's a privilege to see so many people in the audience. We don't normally get very many people in the audience. We're not necessarily the hit of the Tuesday night, but we're thrilled to have you tonight. There was a song that was played right when you were coming in, and that song was in honor of Black History Month. It was called I Have a Dream by will.i.am, and essentially we all have that dream to really know that one day this nation will rise up and we will one day make this place a perfect place and really about an inclusive place. And I think that's a really great theme to start with tonight, about inclusivity and support of each other. And his line and his creed, we hold all these truths to be self-evident, that all men were created equal. So I'd like to sort of lead in with that sort of wonderful concept for our evening this evening. I think we'll move on to board comments now. So we have public comments? Yes.
I just wanted to share that I went to the opening of the Santa Barbara Charter meeting this past week, and just to give the board a quick update because it was their lottery night. And they had multiple grade levels that they were lottering in, but for kindergarten, which I think is one that we pay closest attention to, they had 100 applications for 22 spots. And so I just wanted to make sure the board was aware of that, particularly given the limitations in progressive education alternatives due to the closing of OAS school. So I really wanted to be sure that you knew that. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr.
So part of my day job is working at Santa Barbara City College, and I just had a lot of fun the last week, the days I wasn't sick, working with our high school seniors to get them registered for SPCC, or at least get them starting the process with SPCC. I specifically got to go to La Cuesta High School and got to work with our Adelante Quetzal students, and I highly recommend it. I have the dates. I can send it to the rest of y'all. It's just fun to kind of see the students answer their questions and really get them geared and thinking about college, even if it's our humble #1 community college in the country, SBCC, but it's just a fun opportunity to get to see them. Very inspiring, both as SBCC employee and also as a school board member.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Capps.
Yes, I had a experience this last week as a mom that I just wanted to share. My son's in first grade, and the Family Service Agency comes into, I think, I'm not sure if it's throughout the district, but to the first graders to teach them how to be good friends. And all the parents were encouraged to come, and I think it's probably relevant to a conversation we're having later. But I went and observed this 45-minute session, and it just reminded me of just the ways in which our community partners are in our schools, teaching kids at a very young age these very valuable lessons.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? All right. Thank you, board. So moving forward, we have C8, item C8, public comments on non-agenda matters within the jurisdiction of the Board of Education. Sims Moten.
So I have several slips here, and I'll call you up one at a time. And also hear that voice of 30 seconds, that's me, so you have about 30 seconds to wrap up your comments. So the first one I'd like to call up is Kim Barron.
Good evening. I didn't expect so many people here. I'm here tonight as a parent and as a teacher of elementary school, and I have 2 sons in high school. And I'm here to express my deepening concern about the use of vaping products on the high school and junior high campuses. My friends and colleagues have children at various sites and say that their kids are seeing vaping, which is e-cigarettes, being used in class in front of teachers, because you can do it without anyone noticing, in the bathroom, in the hallways, etc. It's almost impossible to know what's happening unless you know what to look for. And we have a whole group of teenagers who are becoming addicted to nicotine, and nicotine's as addicting as heroin. My son, a student at San Marcos, we found out was using a Juul, which is a vaping device, and he was totally addicted to nicotine. And we had to make him go cold turkey, and he started doing it at the high school. Somebody gave him one, and once he used it a few times, he was hooked, so he bought his own. And so I think most parents I know are not informed. They don't know what it looks like. They don't know what's going on. I've talked to teachers at the high school and junior highs, and my fellow elementary school teachers. They had no idea. And as they've been talking to their kids, the kids are saying, oh yeah, 30 to 50% of kids are doing it. Juniors and seniors, and maybe less at the other grades. But I do know that a student at Santa Barbara Junior High was suspended in the last couple of weeks for vaping at school. So as a parent, I have gotten no information from the school district about this, and I would really like to see some kind of letter go home. And I've given the board and Mr. Matsuoka a letter that was put out by Las Virgenes School District Superintendent to all the parents and staff with pictures of the devices, what to look for. So you don't have to believe me. You can go to school campuses. When you see someone going like this or like this, that's probably what they're doing. They're not cold. They're inhaling the vapor, blowing it down their shirt right in front of the teachers. I would really like to see something going out to all the parents and staff, like as soon as possible, similar to Las Virgenes, with the pictures. The most popular one is the Juul, although that's really expensive, so I've included another picture that's a Soren, and you could see like this. It fits in the palm of your hand. It looks like a flash drive. It plugs into the computer to charge it. So some of your kids may be doing it, and you wouldn't know. Like, I had no idea that my son was doing it. He said I never talked to him about vaping, only cigarettes, but because I didn't really know anything about it. So thank you. I really hope to get some information out to all parents and staff, like as soon as possible.
Thank you. Next is Albert Oden.
Hi. Before I start and we all launch into our grievances and concerns, I just want to say how grateful I am that we have an institution that listens to those concerns and helps us navigate through those challenges and problems. So thank you all. Fortunately, my topic is less serious than what comes later, but it is about the emotional and mental well-being of students. I'm probably one of the few that have read and loved the Santa Barbara Unified Policies, which aspire to provide students a safe environment where they are treated equitably and are free from abuse and mistreatment. I'm requesting 2 procedural changes to ensure we hear from students on whether SB Unified policies are being upheld in sports. Implement an electronic survey to all student athletes administered by SB Unified with questions like, the head coach talks positively to me about my strengths and areas for improvement. The head coach treats everyone fairly and respectfully. The head coach enhances my enjoyment of the sport. The head coach encourages me to provide feedback without fear of retaliation. I would recommend the head coach to a friend. When there is an issue that surfaces, I ask that those bullying complaints should be submitted to SB Unified for review, not the school administrators. Currently, vulnerable students must initiate a complaint of mistreatment against a coach who controls whether they play or not, then submit to a one-on-one interview with the athletic director that hired the coach, a process that deters many students from coming forward. What follows is an anonymous letter from a girl on the DP tennis team to her coach about the coach's treatment of players. Quote, what I expect from a coach, equal treatment for all players, no decisions made based on favoritism, be objective, no purposely blocking players from opportunities, no manipulating results you do not like, no yelling at players, no gossiping about players to other players, no gossiping about players to other parents, no gossiping about players to other coaches. Allow players to move up and down the ladder based on results, not bias. Coaches should never bully their players or say things like, quote, you are replaceable, unquote, or, quote, you are the only here because I allow you to be here, or, quote, the team would have fallen apart if I had not stepped in to coach, unquote. Be civil and respect all players. No retaliating against players who speak up for themselves. End quote. Her complaints, along with 5 others on her team, were recitations of the Santa Barbara Unified Policies on conduct, equity, fairness, access, bullying, discrimination, and Title IX. What she did not know was that 7 months earlier, a group of parents and students made almost identical complaints to the principal and athletic director and warned of future damage to kids. The coach was protected, the kids were not. You would never allow a math teacher to yell at kids, give kids C's without letting them take a test, or give kids C's that tested better than kids with A's. Kids don't have that protection in sports, even in one-on-one sports. In 2014, the LA Times cited a study indicating 45% of students are bullied by their coach. A recent NCAA survey of athletes found that 1/4 to 1/3 of athletes have been publicly humiliated by their coach. 50% suffer from extreme anxiety, and 50% do not fully trust their coach. Until these systems of evaluation and monitoring are in place, SB Unified does not know whether the excellent policies you have in place are benefiting the students. Thank you.
Thank you. Guadalupe Gonzalez.
¿En español o en inglés?
Lo voy a decir en español.
Claro.
Buenas noches. Muchas gracias por permitirnos estar aquí.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing us to be here.
Para la Mesa Directiva Escolar Unificada de Santa Bárbara, estimados miembros de la Mesa Directiva, mi nombre es Guadalupe González y me dirijo a ustedes a nombre de la clase de Padres Adelante de Dos Pueblos High School y Goleta Valley Junior High.
This is for the board of the Santa Barbara Unified School District. Dear members of the board, I am speaking to you. I am Guadalupe González, and I'm here on behalf of the class of Padres Unidos at Dos Pueblos High School and at Goleta Valley Junior High.
En esta ocasión, yo estoy aquí para agradecer enormemente a la Escuela Dos Pueblos High School por su apoyo incondicional y por tener una consejera tan brillante.
On this occasion, I'm here to thank, to gratefully thank Dos Pueblos High School for having such, for unconditional help and support, and for having such a brilliant counselor, so professional
and so competent that helps us with the problems that we have with our children at school.
Es brillante y tan profesional y competente que nos ayuda a solucionar cualquier problema con nuestros hijos.
She's brilliant, and she will help us to resolve any problems that we might have that have to do with our children.
Ella nos aconseja con los miembros de la escuela y estamos muy, pero muy felices de tener esa dedicación de padres hispanos.
She will make the connection, so she will put us in touch with members of the school staff. We are very happy to have that kind of dedication toward Hispanic parents.
Esperamos que sigan con ese mismo servicio a toda la comunidad estudiantil, específicamente a la comunidad hispana.
We hope that they continue to offer that same kind of service to all the student community and specifically to the Hispanic community.
Muchísimas gracias. Mi nombre es Guadalupe González y he venido de clases de Padre Adelante y gracias por escuchar y estamos aquí para agradecerles enormemente.
Thank you for listening. I'm Guadalupe González. I'm from the class of Padres Unidos, and we're here to thank you very much.
Luis Lopez.
Buenas noches, estimados miembros de la mesa directiva.
Good evening, dear board members.
Mi nombre es Luis Enrique López y me dirijo a ustedes a nombre de la clase de Padres Adelante de la escuela Goleta Valley Junior High, del cual yo soy miembro.
My name is Luis Enrique Lopez, and I'm talking to you on behalf of the Padres Unidos o Padres Adelantes class at Goleta Valley Junior High, of which I am a member.
Mi motivo de estar aquí es para agradecer al personal de dicha escuela por su buen desempeño para atender nuestras necesidades.
The reason that I am here today is to thank all the staff at the school for tending to all our needs that we have there at the school.
En varias ocasiones he necesitado la ayuda del señor Mauricio Ortega para poder apoyar a mi hijo y he recibido la ayuda necesaria de él.
On several occasions, I have needed the help from Mr. Mauricio Ortega to be able to support my son, and I have received the necessary help that I need from him.
Sabemos de antemano que todas las necesidades que tenemos
we know beforehand of all the needs that we have.
Y el señor Ortega y su personal siempre están ahí para ayudarnos en el éxito de nuestros hijos.
And Mr. Ortega and all the staff are always there to help us for the success of our kids.
Muchas gracias por el tiempo permitido y por su atención.
Thank you for the time allowed to me, and thank you for your attention.
Mi nombre es Luis Enrique López y soy miembro de la clase de Padres Adelante de la escuela Goleta Valley Junior High.
I am Luis Enrique Lopez, member of the class of Padres Adelante, and I represent Goleta Valley Junior High.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next is Luis Lopez. Was that Luis?
Yes, that was
Okay,
yes.
all right, just want to make sure. Okay, Jorge Santillan. There you go.
Buenas tardes.
Estimados miembros de la Mesa Directiva de Educación y administradores del Distrito Escolar.
Dear members of the board and administrators from the school district.
Mi nombre es Jorge Santillán y soy padre de familia de la Goleta Valley Junior High y soy miembro de la escuela Padres Adelante de dicha escuela.
My name is Jorge Santillán, and I am a parent at Goleta Valley Junior High, and I'm also a member of the class of Padres Adelante at that same school.
También soy miembro del comité ILAC en la Escuela La Patera de Goleta.
I'm also an ELAC member at La Patera School in Goleta.
Mi petición es que haya un espacio especial en las escuelas para los alumnos y que haya tenido un accidente y estén lastimados.
My petition is that there should be a special place at school for those students that have had some type of accident and that are hurt.
Y que las sillas, ya que las sillas en las aulas son un poco reducidas.
Being that the chairs in the classrooms are a little bit small.
Esto será de gran ayuda para los niños para que puedan tener un mejor desempeño y que puedan tener más éxito y alcanzar las metas de sus estudios.
This would be of great help for those children so that they can have better studies and then they can succeed in achieving those goals in their studies.
Muchas gracias por su tiempo y atención. Mi nombre es Jorge Santillán.
Thank you for your time and for your attention. I am Jorge Santillán.
I have one final public comment, but I don't have a name. Did someone want to speak? There you are, okay. That's no problem. Put your name there for us, please. It's okay, next is Alberto Reyes.
Alberto Reyes? Okay, Alberto. Despacito. Sí.
Estimados miembros de la mesa directiva y educación y administradores del distrito escolar.
Dear members of the school board and administrators from the school district.
Mi nombre es Alberto Reyes, soy padre de la escuela Dos Pueblos.
I'm Alberto Reyes, I'm a parent at Dos Pueblos School.
Y el día de hoy estoy aquí agradecido por compartir parte de este tiempo con ustedes.
And today I'm grateful to be able to share a little bit of my time with you.
Nuestra petición el día de hoy es, sabemos el esfuerzo de los padres que hacen porque los niños tengan su educación.
And our petition here today is that we know the effort that parents put forth for the education of their children.
Y lo que solicitamos es un medio de transporte. Sabemos que hay niños que tienen una clase desde muy temprano, una clase que es periodo cero.
And what we're asking is for some kind of transportation. We know that some children have early classes. The class is called period zero.
Sabemos que los padres a veces tienen que ir también a sus actividades del trabajo y a veces es un poquito imposible llevar a sus niños a la escuela.
We also know that parents need to be early at their jobs, and we know that sometimes it's impossible to be able to get the children to school that early.
Y algo muy importante, lo que queremos evitar es que también nuestros niños tengan asistencias tardías.
And another thing that we want to try to avoid is for our children to be late to their classes.
Esa es nuestra petición del día de hoy para darle una solución para el beneficio de todos nosotros y no solamente de nosotros, sino de toda la comunidad.
That's our petition that we have for you, to give it some kind of solution, not only for our benefit, but for the benefit of all the community.
Sabemos que si nos esforzamos por nuestros niños van a tener una mejor educación y es el futuro que vamos a dejar nosotros.
We know that if we make the effort to help our children, they're going to have a better education, and that's the legacy that we leave for the future.
En esta noche muchísimas gracias por su tiempo y su atención.
Thank you for your time and for your attention.
Y también agradecemos la presencia y la participación de todos los padres que están el día de hoy aquí.
And we also thank all the parents that are present here today.
Una vez más, mi nombre es Alberto Reyes. Muchísimas gracias.
Once more, I'm Alberto Reyes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We will now move on to item D, acceptance of donations for February 13th, 2018. Do I have a motion?
Yes. I accept with gratitude the donations.
Second?
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
And it passes unanimously. Moving to item E, the consent agenda. Are there any items that fellow board members would like to pull? Ms. Parker?
I would like to pull item E1.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, so do I have a motion to approve the remaining consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
And it passes unanimously. We will move on now to our action agenda. Number 1, board action on student discipline education code 48918, case number 201718-15.
In the case of 201718-15 stipulated agreement, move approval for full expulsion for 1 school year, which ends June 2018.
Do we have any board comments? I need an action item? Motion?
It's a motion. Need a second.
All right.
I'll second it.
All right, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
And it passes unanimously. Moving to number 2, board action on student discipline, education code 48918, case number 201718-16.
In the case of 201718-16, move approval of full expulsion for 1 school year, which ends January 2019.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And it passes unanimously. Moving to action agenda number 3, board action on petition for readmission of an expelled student, education code 48918, case number 201617-50.
In the case of 201617-50, move approval for re-entry from expulsion for full expulsion 1 school year ending January 2018.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And it passes unanimously. Moving to action agenda number 5, board action on petition for readmission of an expelled
I
student
think we're on
education.
4. Is that
Are we on-
correct still?
Did I skip over one?
Yep.
Sorry. Board action on petition for readmission of expelled student education code 48918, case number 201617-55.
In the case of 201617-55, move approval for re-entry from expulsion, full expulsion for 1 school year ending January 2018.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And it passes unanimously. Moving on to number 5, board action on petition for readmission of an expelled student education code 48918, case number 201718-09.
In the case of 201718-09, move approval for re-entry from expulsion, suspended expulsion for 1 year for 1 semester ended January 2018.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And it passes unanimously. Moving on to item number 6, approval of modification for fundraising activity and approval of naming for the Scoreboard sponsor at Peabody Stadium at Santa Barbara High School. Mr. Hetjunk.
Thank you, Mr. Matsuoka, members of the board. In 2014, the board approved the fundraising application for Peabody Stadium for Santa Barbara High School. As part of that application, the board approved naming opportunities, and they approved a naming opportunity for a major donor of $1 million or $1.5 million, depending on the combination of the track field stadium. And a major donor meeting those criterias never became to fruition. And the foundation would like to ask that the Scoreboard on its own be able to be named in a donation amount of $100,000. And then also they are asking that we would approve Montecito Bank and Trust as that donor.
All right, any board comments? Ms. Sims-Martin?
Yes. Well, first I want to thank Montecito Bank and Trust for this generous donation for the cost of the scoreboard. I did have a question on the language where it's saying the $100,000 towards the foundation fundraising. Should that include specifically the scoreboard? Or is it?
The scoreboard is actually part of the overall construction contract, so we're already under contract with the scoreboard. Their donation would cover the cost of the scoreboard and a small portion of the installation, because all new utilities need to be run to the new location. So this would give them the opportunity to have their name on there for a donation of $100,000.
Right, so I'm just saying in the fiscal, where it's saying the 100,000 towards foundation fundraising, that seems pretty general as opposed to specific for the scoreboard, correct?
It's part of the $5 million check.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other comments, questions? All right, Ms. Parker?
Just, again, I'll echo Ms. Moten, I'm sure, and the rest of the board with that huge thank you to Montecito Bank and Trust, and I will move approval of the modification for fundraising activity and the naming for the scoreboard sponsor at Peabody Stadium at Santa Barbara High School.
I will second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
And it passes unanimously. All right, moving on to action agenda item number 7. Acceptance of Measure Q 2010 Citizens Bond Oversight Committee Annual Report. Measure R 2010 Citizens Bond Oversight Committee Annual Report. And the measures I 2016 and J 2016 Citizens Bond Oversight Committee Annual Report. Mr. Hetyan.
Thank you. Once again, measures Q and R bond issues are almost exhausted and complete. And when I and J passed, the board combined the old Q and R committees and the new I and J committees into one committee serving all of those functions. As part of the bylaws, those committees give an annual report to the board, and attached are their annual reports. And our committee chair is here to answer any questions you may have.
All right, board.
Questions from board members?
Ms. Parker?
I think I would just ask, is it Ms. Connect? Yes. If you feel like you got the information that you needed from staff to be able to put your stamp of approval on each one of these, and if that's, the sense from the committee. I mean, we obviously really appreciate the work that you do. It's totally voluntary, and it's time-consuming. And I just want to be sure that you felt like you were supported.
Thank you, Madam Ms. Parker. Sarah Connect on behalf of the combined oversight board measures Q, R, I, and J. And on behalf of the committee, I would first like to thank staff and say that they've done a tremendous job as support for the committee throughout the year. Also, I'd like to thank the board on behalf of the committee for giving us the opportunity to serve. And I would say that we've had plenty of information, and we've been able to gather enough information to be able to present the reports to you today and ask you to accept our reports.
Thanks. All right. Anyone else?
I just wanted to, again, add thank you for doing this. It's a job that people don't really even realize exists, to be on these oversight committees as a volunteer, and I know it's a lot of time. And so I just wanted to thank you for your service and as representative of many other members that you are standing in front of. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? All right. So do we have a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And it passes unanimously. All right, moving on to item 8, approval of recommendation to adopt mathematics instructional materials for grades 6 through 8. Ms. Carey and Mr. Ramirez.
Or had to step across $5 million. Okay. Good evening, Dr. Reed, President of the Board, board members, and we are just coming before you again to follow up on our recommendation from our recent board meeting where we outlined our rationale for seeking your approval of instructional materials for mathematics for grades 6, 7, and 8. I'll speak briefly and give Dr. Ramirez a chance to just remind you of the proposed adoption, and then again kind of seek your action. I want to remind the board that and the community that we adopted college preparatory mathematics for our high school integrated math courses, Math 1, 2, and 3, by the conclusion of last school year 2016-2017. But that for grades 6, 7, and 8, we took that process into this school year and reached a consensus through a series of stakeholder meetings by the end of first semester. The materials have been on display in the superintendent's office for the public to view. And maybe if Brian could scroll down, you can see a little bit about the rationale for both the 6th grade materials and the 7th and 8th grade materials.
Good evening, Board. Board President Dr. Reed. Just to add some context to 6th grade, because that is a question, and to remind the Board and the public that the decision to, although 6-8 is a continuous span under our new Common Core math standards, the decision was made about midway through the process that, given a number of local factors, including our partner districts, the fact that our 6th grade is not, that we don't have a middle school model, it was largely a teacher-driven decision to make an isolated decision, not entirely isolated, but an individual decision for 6th grade, independent of 7th and 8th. So that's just context and a reminder for both the Board and for the public.
All right, Ms. Parker.
I won't go over ground again. I feel like you made a really great presentation last time, and I appreciate that the materials were out and available for parents who had questions about it. And I guess my only question at this point is, you're talking about providing training to support their use in preparation for next fall. Will this be June training? Will there be separate training for our grades 6 through 8 teachers on this? What's the plan around PD on this particular curriculum?
So given the level of interest, and I'll start with just 6th grade and I'll let Ms. Carey answer to 7th and 8th, but given the level of interest and where we were in terms of just a lot of energy and commitment, we actually executed a professional learning plan for 6th grade this year. The same is true for 8th grade, but I'll let Ms. Carey detail that process. And it included a combination of summer opportunities, but also opportunities that were agreed upon utilizing time during the year as well. So it was really an effort to be mindful of teacher time and the need to balance that with just this professional learning that was more ongoing, because it really is learning. It's not simply a training. It's something that requires practice and follow-up. And we already have a plan for year 2 in development, which was why the timing was really of the essence. We wanted to maximize opportunities throughout the summer and into the year to be very mindful and thoughtful and intentional around what a year 2 for 6th grade might look like.
Yes, as Dr. Ramirez said that...
Go ahead.
As Dr. Ramirez said, that 8th grade essentially did such a robust pilot with CPM that it is, they were able to participate in the training associated with provided by CPM for Math 1, 2, and 3, beginning last June and through pull-out days roughly quarterly this current school year. That's been a successful model, so that's what 7th grade teachers will do. We were able to afford teachers the option last summer of June or August, but because we really needed them to all do those 3 successive days before the school year commenced. So we will replicate that kind of offer again to accommodate folks' schedules and have the during the year trainings as well. There is a year 2 strand for CPM and professional learning, and then we're developing a plan for years 3 and beyond.
Great. Thank you. All right. I just wanted to say that it's really exciting to see materials that are designed for diverse classrooms, not to say that they haven't been, but a really concerted effort in that direction, and as well as with students with disabilities. So it's exciting to see that, and exciting that this is going to be rolling out, or is rolling out. So do I have a motion? Ms. Parker.
I want to give a special thank you to Craig Schneider and Janet Hollister for all the work that they've done on this, our math teachers on special assignment, but also really, I mean, I know, obviously this was a later decision because it took longer for our staff, our teachers, our math teachers to come to this decision, and they've really worked hard on it. So a huge shout out to our 6th, 7th, and 8th, all of our 6th grade teachers and our 7th and 8th math teachers in particular, as they struggled with this and really worked hard on figuring it out. And so with that, I will move approval of the adoption of mathematics instructional materials for grades 6 through 8.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
And it passes unanimously. Thank you.
Very much.
So item 9, I'm just going to tell the board, we have a new title for this item. It's resolution to approve additional annual report of teacher's assignment for the 2017-2018 school year, resolution number 2017/18-28. Mr. Matsuoka.
So the board will hear these, hopefully not often, but on an ongoing basis. We're trying to fill teacher positions with people who don't have the exact credentialing requirements, but these are people who have completed coursework. So this resolution provides backup that these 2 teachers do have the coursework to teach their subjects. And Ms. Peak is here to answer any specific questions.
I guess we have no questions for you.
Great, that makes it easy.
Don't go.
Don't go yet, though.
I know, 2 more.
So do we have an action? Do we have a motion?
I'm approval of the new language. Is it a resolution to approve additional annual report of teachers' assignments for 2017-18 school year? Resolution 2017-18-28.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
And it passes unanimously. Moving on to item 10, National University Credentials Internship Agreement and Credentials Student Teaching Agreement Ratification. Ms. Peak?
Good evening. Nice to see everyone. National University has a current internship agreement on file with our school district. The internship agreement allows teachers to teach in the classrooms who haven't completed their full credential program. They also currently have a student-teacher agreement. What you have in front of you here is an update to the agreement that we had previously that started in 2012.
Board, any questions?
Yeah, when I saw this, I just wondered, is this the only university that we partner with in this way, or is this, we're just approving this one?
You're approving this one. They come up, usually the agreements are 3 to 5 years.
So how many would out of curiosity, how many would you say we partner with?
We probably partner with at least a dozen, but
just
that doesn't mean that we use all of them.
Sure. I just think it's a good model. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, do we have a motion?
Sure. I move to approve the National University Credentials Internship Agreement and Credentials Student Teaching Agreement Ratification.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, and it passes unanimously. Moving on to item 11, Memorandum of Understanding and Responsibility Agreement between Santa Barbara Unified School District and Santa Barbara County Education Office, Clear Administrative Credential Program. We'll stick with you, Ms. Peak.
Yeah, I'm still here. I haven't gone anywhere yet.
Okay.
So our district, what you have in front of you is the Memorandum of Understanding and Responsibilities Agreement between the Santa Barbara Unified School District and our County Education Office, who will work together to prepare the following people that you have listed here as attachments. All of these individuals are working on clearing their administrative credential, and that is the program that our County Education Office offers for them.
Yes.
Can you just expand on what do you mean by clearing their administrative credential?
Sure. When you get an initial credential, whether it is a teaching credential or an administrative credential, they start out as preliminary, which means within that period of time, you typically have 5 years to clear your credential. So to clear it makes it go from preliminary to a clear credential is what they refer to it as. So what that means is you can renew your credential every 5 years. Currently, our new teachers have to go through a teacher induction program, which is required for them in order to clear their credential. This is a similar thing for those that are now getting the administrative credential. So they go through this program at the county education office in order to clear their credential.
So does clearing the credential mean they've met all the requirements?
Yes.
Okay.
But then they have to renew it again in 5 years, and they have to do professional development, pay a fee, fill out paperwork for the commission, that type of thing.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Yes.
So unlike the tip, this will stay at SBCEO, I'm assuming, yes?
That is my current understanding, but I believe that's what our plan is.
Right, we're going to take over the TIP program for our teacher workforce, but we have no plans to do that for our administrative credentials.
Do we have a motion?
I move to accept the Memorandum of Understanding and Responsibility Agreement between the Santa Barbara Unified School District and Santa Barbara County Education Office Clear Administrative Credential Program.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. We'll now move on to item 12, selection of candidate in 2018 California School Boards Association, CSBA, Delegate Assembly in Subregion 11A. Mr. Matsuoka.
So you can see by the background info, there is one candidate's term expiring. It is Mr. Garvin's term, and he has decided to run again, and it's a good thing because he's the only candidate for our region. So it's a pretty simple vote for our school board and across the region. So the question for the board is to vote in approval of Jack Garvin to be a delegate assembly to CSBA.
Yes, Ms. Parker.
I just wanted to let the board know that traditionally, for our subregion, there is a North County representative and a South County representative, and so that's why this time you're just seeing the North County rep go for it. I've been able to get to know Jack through my work on the Santa Barbara County School Boards Association. He's a rep there as well. He's tremendously experienced and a really valuable member of that body, a former superintendent himself, and certainly a great CSBA delegate. So I highly recommend a yes vote.
Well, thank you. Okay, so do we have a motion?
I will move to select Jack Garvin in the 2018 California School Boards Association Delegate Assembly Subregion 11A.
And I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And that passes unanimously. Moving on to action agenda item 13, the second reading and recommendation for adoption of Board Policy 3260, fees and charges. Ms. Jate.
Thank you. Good evening, Board. On July 23rd, 2018, I brought you this Board Policy 3260, and Board Member Parker asked that we add language regarding the field trips, which refer to Board Policy 6153. And on the policy, if you scroll down there, right there, we have noted that that's where you can find the information on field trips and the fees to the field trips.
I guess my only question, if I may, Dr. Reed.
Yes, Ms. Parker.
My only question is that it's clear in 6153 that schools can ask for funds for field trips, unlike so many other things. And so I guess that's a question mark to me. Is this enough just to say, go look at 6153? Or do we need to make it a little bit clearer? It's just a question mark for me, because I know it's in 6153 that, you know, a teacher can ask for parents to supply funds for field trips. It's just that all students must be able to go even if they can't afford to.
That's correct.
And so I don't want people to feel like, oh, this is one of those things in the law that says you absolutely must not ask for funds.
So I can specifically say that after I reference the board policy.
Mm-hmm.
Just exactly what you just said, that we can charge for field trips, however, all students must be able to.
I would mimic the language in it.
Okay.
So I would move to approve this board policy with some minor alteration that includes the specific language from 6153 that makes it clear.
Okay. Thank you, and so I can bring it back on consent.
Well, I would actually, I'm making a motion to move that understanding language would mimic Board Policy 6153, so it doesn't need to come back to us.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We typically take a break, but we're not this evening because we understand that we have a large amount of people here. We want to keep the meeting moving forward. So we're moving on to G, Report Discussion Agenda, Response to Online Chat Room Incident. Mr. Matsuoka.
I'll offer some opening comments, and then we look forward to hearing all of the parents and voices in the community about this topic. This online chat room incident, it's been an event for our entire district, especially our high schools. I would say that I've been on campus at San Marcos High School on a regular basis, mostly checking in with the staff there, especially the administrative team. I was on campus there for almost an hour at the end of the school day. I like being on high schools. That's been my entire experience as an educator, as a high school principal, and I like getting on the ground and just getting a feel for how are kids, how are staff, and how is the front office. So it's good to be on campus. Do want to have a pulse on what's going on. We welcome your input. I know you've had a lot of input about this process, and so we'll turn it back to the board about listening, and then the board will have some comments after.
All right. I would, first of all, really like to thank all of you for coming out tonight and to provide your comments with regards to this incident that took place. And I also want to acknowledge all of those who emailed me and spoke to me personally on the phone, and I know contacted our board members about your positive comments and your concerns, and that I really do appreciate and heard your messages. I'm kind of going to go against typical board protocol because I feel compelled to share with you something about myself, and that is that I am a mom, believe it or not, first and foremost, and a parent, like all of you here. And no threat, physical or emotional, to one child or any children is okay, period. End of story. I have felt great empathy and really concern for the students and families involved and impacted by this incident, wondering how and what support are our students getting and what can we do as school board members to ensure that our schools are safe and inclusive for all students to thrive. So with that said, I know we have a lot of speakers, and on this item we want to honor everyone's right to speak. So per our board bylaws, I'm going to have to reduce the amount of time based on the amount of speakers that we do have to 2 minutes each, so that we can hear from as many of you as possible. I'm going to go ahead and close to public comments at this time, so please turn in any speaker slip now. Do we have any other speaker slips? All right, after that last one, we're going to provide you a 30-second warning in an effort for you to complete your thoughts in a timely manner. And as a board, I want you to understand that we're not going to engage in a dialogue with you. We're going to listen to your comments. The board and I will have an opportunity to discuss with each other about this topic after your comments, and then we will end with presentations by Cindy Silverman, Executive Director of the Anti-Defamation League, and Jared Schwartz, Executive Director of Just Communities. Finally, I just want everyone to know I respect everyone's voices here and the perspectives you bring to this conversation. And in turn, I request the same respect be used when speaking at the podium for all persons in and outside of this room. And I must add this one statement. It was said so eloquently by a San Marcos family whose children attended from years 1996 to 2013. And she stated, "We truly hope that everyone can try to listen, empathize, and move forward with constructive ideas to heal, to unite, and to continue to support each other. Because working together, addressing these issues or problems can only make San Marcos stronger, can make our schools stronger, can make our district stronger, can make our children stronger, and our families and communities stronger. So with that said, I thank you in advance for that request, and I'll turn it over to Ms. Sims-Moten.
Our first speaker of the Walid Afifi.
Thank you. I'm here I understand that there's a proposal to have an SRO on, to pay for an SRO, and there's the support of the superintendent and others here. And as a parent, I'm also very concerned about the issues and certainly understand the inclination to support an SRO. So I went and did some research, and in fact, I was going to read some of the findings. And I'll start with 2016 key policy letter regarding SROs by the Secretary of Education, John B. King, who wrote, "I am concerned about the potential for violation of students' civil rights and unnecessary citations or arrests of students in schools, all of which can lead to unnecessary and harmful introduction of children and young adults into a school-to-prison pipeline. As education leaders, you can empower schools, educators, and staff with the skills and capacity to avoid relying on SROs in the first place, and also eliminate SRO-related school discipline policies and practices that may harm young people and needlessly contribute to their involvement with the juvenile criminal justice system." A study using national representative sampling of U.S. public schools with data collection over time from 2005 to 2008, quote, found no evidence suggesting that SRO or other sworn law enforcement officers contribute to school safety, and instead showed that, quote, as violent offenses that are reported to law enforcement increases, and that the presence of police officers helps to redefine disciplinary situations as criminal justice problems rather than social, psychological, or academic problems, and accordingly increases the likelihood that students are arrested at school. There's a lot of other evidence that suggests that SROs are neither effective, and in fact, perhaps
30 seconds.
worst, very strongly affect students of color and students with disabilities. In fact, quite a bit of evidence that that's the case. So I understand the inclination to want to create safe schools, but in fact, SROs are shown through evidence to not create safe schools for all students, and in fact, to harm very specific students. So I strongly consider, I hope that you take a very close look at the evidence. Some communities have established months-long, 6 months long committees to investigate these issues and come up with solutions that really do create long-term solutions for safety. Thank you.
Thank you. Erica Dixon.
Hi, thank you so much. I appreciate all of your work and your time and your energy. I'm with a grassroots parent organization called Santa Barbara Parents for High School Safety, and we want to acknowledge Superintendent Matsuoka's framework for improving student safety, and we would like to add our feedback and add to it. So we are not here to do anything except try to push forward some positive changes that will help all students be safe and be communicated with in a healthy way, and to prevent something like this from happening again. So I'm not sure what the protocol is, but we have our response. May I bring it? Mm-hmm. Okay.
You can just give me the stack, and I'll pass them down. Okay.
Thank you. So we want to build on the existing programming. We appreciate that a lot of us are freshman parents, so we don't even know how it all works, and we're learning. And we appreciate the parents who have forged the path in front of us, and we are now learning that parents make it happen.
30 seconds.
And so we want to contribute to that, and this is sort of just a beginning of that conversation. Thank you for your time.
Great. Thank you. Jennifer Pennington.
Hi.
Thanks for listening. I apologize if I'm not as polished as what you're used to listening to. I just wanted to follow up on Ms. Dixon's presentation of the Santa Barbara Parents for High School Safety response to the superintendent's framework. Regarding communication, we would request that timely, honest, and transparent a timely, honest, and transparent district-wide protocol be put into place within the next 30 days. We feel like that would help prevent what happened this time from happening again. We would, under the school resource officer, we agree that the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Department needs to continue and expand their support and their on-campus presence, especially in light of the recent events at San Marcos High School. And we would like to see a regular SRO presence be reestablished there, like there was a year ago. We'd like to see that happen in the next 60 days. Regarding hate and bias intervention, we would request proactive and constant engagement in student body in creating a no place for hate campus, not just at San Marcos, but at all the schools in our district, and that there be a zero tolerance approach to hate speech and threats, terroristic threats of violence like we recently experienced. And we'd like immediate education and support for perpetrators or people who may be falling between the cracks and their families. And we'd like to see a student wellness center, a bilingual student wellness center created at San Marcos High School. We're in favor of the digital citizenship. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Sven Klein.
Good evening, Dr. Reed, board members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak in front of you tonight. My name is Sven Klein. I'm an alumni of San Marcos High School, class of 1990. I'm also part of the parent-led group that is looking for positive changes after this incident that we recently experienced. As some of you know, I've been highly critical of the handling of this issue, and with good reason. However, rather than provide detail on how poorly this issue has been handled, I would rather use my time to productively work towards a path forward. I'm here to openly state that I'm not looking for anyone to be fired for their actions, or in some cases, their inactions. I especially want to voice my support for Ed Behrens, who over the years has had a very positive impact on San Marcos High School. My support for Mr. Behrens may surprise some of you. However, my vote of confidence comes after conversations and meetings with San Marcos faculty members who collectively have over 70 years of experience at San Marcos High School. I've known each of them for over 30 years and trust their judgment. If they strongly believe that Ed Behrens is a great principal for San Marcos High School, then I do so as well. Please note, this does not mean that I'm looking Please note, this does not mean I'm not looking for accountability on this issue. While accountability may not come in the form of termination, it must come in terms of leadership and ultimately actions. The parent group has laid out specific and concrete requests
30 seconds.
And are looking to be a willing and able participant in moving forward. In long-term sustainable change, not only to San Marcos High School, but the entire school district as well. San Marcos has long been a leader in the Santa Barbara community. We are ready to lead again. However, we will need the Santa Barbara School District to be a willing participant. I strongly urge everyone to come together and make our school district even better and stronger in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sabrina Kranz.
Thank you to the school board for letting me be here. There are 4 points that I wanted to bring up after the last forum, and thank you for that as well. As a mother of a named victim in this recent event in San Marcos, I would like to request that the school board sets a stronger standard of discipline for the children at schools that threaten the lives of others. When a death threat is made to named victims, this should constitute a no-tolerance behavior, and these students should be expelled from the school, as well as all district schools. There should be no question about the consequence of this behavior, so that this does not repeat with others who may be considering, or to trouble-minded boys and girls who create attention through these negative behaviors. If we don't allow this at all at school, then these kids and their parents will take the matter more seriously. I want the school to work with the police and sheriff departments more closely so that these children who threaten to kill others are removed immediately. And if they had to be released, that they only do so under house arrest or under strict requirements, that the authorities are aware of their whereabouts at all times, until when they can be prosecuted and put into lockdown school to get the help that they need. These sick children need to be away from our schools and our children who are there to learn, grow, and to be respectable adults. We need the school district to be required to inform parents about their children being in harm's way, and not have these parents find out many days or a week later, and some from other sources. It appears that another threat 3 years ago was communicated badly to the parents just like this time. That has to change immediately. I want the boys' parents to have a conference with the girls' parents to give us the assurance that they're all over this and that they're responsible for making sure that their children do not carry out these threats. I don't ever want to look back after a shooting and say that the signs are there.
Rosie Bermudez.
Hello, my name is Rosie Bermudez. I'm a PhD candidate at UCSB, and I'm also the advisor to Mujer, a Chicana Latina Women Identified Student Organization at UCSB for the past 5 years. Sorry, I get nervous. I'm here on behalf of Mujer with many of our members here in the audience today. As concerned community members and community collaborators, we host an annual conference at UCSB, and we invite students from San Marcos, Santa Barbara, Dos Pueblos, and La Cuesta every year. We would like to express our deep concern regarding the recent events that occurred across the Santa Barbara high schools, not just San Marcos, and we believe that violence and threats of violence against girls and women is a very critical issue in our schools and in our society in general. We endorse the demands proposed by Poder, and we do not agree with the implementation of a school resource officer at any SB high school campus. In response to the recent threats, we believe this reaction would only serve to criminalize students of color and will not deal with the real issue at hand. We rather that education be prioritized. At UCSB, students are required to take a gender and ethnicity requirement in order to graduate. The purpose of these courses in education in general is to provide socially conscious and produce socially conscious and well-rounded individuals. Why wait for college to educate our youth about these important areas affecting everyday lives in schools and our society? And it is clear, given recent events, that this is much needed, and we do not need a repeat of May 23rd, 2014, which was the day of the mass shooting at UCSB by a male student who was mentally disturbed, but who also felt entitled to women's bodies. Again, Mujer endorses Poder's demands, and we also agree with the other demands made by the other student group, except for the student resource officer. Thank you.
Norma Maria. On her way? Okay.
Good night. I wasn't planning to speak in this meeting. But I was asked to do it, and I will. As a mother of two high school students, a boy and a girl, I feel betrayed. I feel that you failed the system when you didn't communicate right away what was going on. We have to find out by the TV news what was going on. And infuriated me so much to hear by your assistant that you determined that there was no physical threat to all these 19 girls from the school. As a mother, I was upset. You guys didn't reach out to anybody. I left a message in your office, your assistant, the principal in San Marcos, and the 3 assistant principals. None of you returned a phone call, at least to say, we are working on it. Don't worry about it. I didn't want to send my kids to school because I didn't know what was going on. None of you reached out to us to tell us what's happening. Don't worry about it. We're working on it. And you think that by putting an officer on the school again is going to solve the problem? I don't think so. Who's going to be the target? We, the minority. I feel like if this incident wouldn't be, it wasn't a minority, you guys would have handled it in a different way. That is what I think, and I feel so betrayed by you.
Time.
I don't trust you anymore.
Helen Cooper, to be followed by Sandra Wood.
Board members, Superintendent. I've been to several meetings at San Marcos, and I was the final speaker last Monday. And I wrote things, but I'm just going to speak from being in the room. And being in the room, the energy is heavy and thick. And what I want to say is that we need partnership. And I don't know that partnership has happened in specific groups, but I want to say that I've talked to several freshman parents, and I'm a returning parent to San Marcos. So I feel safe, comfortable, trusting the administration and the teachers and staff of San Marcos. They know the children and will engage in dialogue. Some freshman parents were nervous, so they went to the school and they met with Mr. Behrens. They left feeling like the school was handling it. The school has responded very well. I think part of what's happened here is rumor and rumor and rumor. You have to engage with dialogue with the school and be an active participant. And we cannot engage in little subgroups that are not willing to work together. And that's really what I ask of the board, is that I ask you in hearing everyone. It is a highly emotional issue, but I think what's required is calm, reflective sense of other to support all students. Thank you.
30 seconds. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for everyone who spoke before me and to the board. My name is Sandra Wood, and I'm a San Marcos parent, and I have been for the last 6 years. The sense of community and pride at San Marcos is high, and I know that each and every parent cares deeply for the well-being and safety of all the students. I stand united with San Marcos parents in my desire to move forward with a constructive, sustainable framework to improve school safety. I am grateful for the response that initiated these parents to put together action items that have been provided to you, the board. The calls for action presented by the group Santa Barbara Parents for High School Safety include some existing programs, some unfunded initiatives, and some new ideas. There is no doubt that developing a strategy to respond to potential incidents of targeted school violence is challenging and complex. There is no, in my opinion, single universal prescription that will be effective in dealing with every crisis or situation that will confront our school administrators, our law enforcement, parents, and other individuals in our community. When a student's behavior raises a specter of potential violence, responsible adults will be forced to make judgments about the risk associated with that student's actions and how to respond to that situation. I speak for many San Marcos parents in saying we appreciate Kerry Matsuoka's moving forward with his plans to assist our ongoing efforts to restore our SRO and look forward to the development of the incident parent notification protocol as outlined in his letter to San Marcos. I believe that involving individual schools, parents, and the community in the development of this is extremely important, and I look forward to a sustainable plan that incorporates communication protocols in all of our districts, not just San Marcos. Thank you.
Thank you. Marcy Wimbush, to be followed by Candace Perez.
Thank you all for being here. My name is Marcy Wimbish, and I am the PTSA president at San Marcos High School. I wanted to share with you some of the things that San Marcos has done to support our parents and community since this incident. I want to thank San Marcos High School administration for partnering with our parents to provide support for our community as we have worked through this incident. Our administration has partnered with fabulous representatives from Wellness Club, What is Love, AHA, These organizations quickly planned many programs on campus. On Wednesday, January 31st, the PTSA sponsored a special meeting for our parents to provide an outlet for stress and anxiety, and also to provide a formal way to express ways that parents and their students could be supported in the future. On Thursday, February 1st, the same group of wellness professionals also organized a forum for the girls who were directly impacted by this incident at San Marcos High School to allow them a safe place to express their feelings. In addition, on Monday, February 5th, they provided a session for all freshmen to discuss many of the feelings surrounding these events. In addition, counselors have been meeting with the students on campus regularly, and FSA counselors have been available when requested. We made enormous efforts to support our students and parents through this incident. Our administration is strongly committed to implementing the plans put forth by Superintendent Matsuoka. Our systems are not all perfect. There were admittedly some breakdowns in communication. This situation had many levels of complexity, and I do not pretend to understand all of them. That being said, I look out in the front of me, and I see beaming royal pride. I see parents who trust and respect our leadership at San Marcos High School. I would like to take a quick minute to acknowledge the parents who are really here tonight to support San Marcos High School and stand behind Ed Behrens and his leadership team. Can you please stand up? I would like to acknowledge our parents and alumni who are committed to working hard to create positive change in partnership with the current administration at San Marcos High School and Santa Barbara Unified School District.
Thank you. Candace Perez. Following Candace with Nancy Sheldon.
Hello, good evening. I'm Candace Somé Perez, and I am a volunteer with Poder, People Organized for the Defense and Equal Rights of Santa Barbara Youth, and also with Culture and Arts for the People, or Conservation of the American Pyramids. I'm also a mother of a toddler and a family member of San Marcos family. My boyfriend, who is the father of our son, has two incredible daughters, one who is a recent graduate of San Marcos and one who is currently attending San Marcos and was one of the students who was targeted recently. Rosie mentioned earlier some demands, demands asks that we have put together, working in conjunction with Surge, showing up for racial justice, as well as other groups in Santa Barbara here. And I will send those to you hopefully tomorrow so that you have them to look at. They are in many ways very similar to the other parent group that's here that handed you the handout. There are two major differences that I'll mention in the short time. One is that we are definitely against having an SRO on campus for reasons that Waleed mentioned earlier. Vast research on that showing the disproportionate targeting of students of color. We'll send that to you, as well as ethnic studies as a preventative. I encourage the parents here who aren't familiar, when you talk about intervention, yes, but also prevention, and ethnic studies as a graduation requirement is proven to prevent racism, to prevent misogyny, and further marginalizing mentalities in our students and our society. Thank you.
Nancy Sheldon, to be followed by Marla Asamiga.
Good evening, and thank you for your time. I'm Nancy Sheldon, and I am bringing a petition to reinstate a school resource officer at San Marcos that has been signed by over 1,000 people. And I agree, for us, the people who have signed, this is about prevention. The SRO has been an incredible resource for students at San Marcos for at least 20 years. A longtime teacher at San Marcos, when approached with this petition, she said, "We have had the most amazing resource officers in the past. They get to know our students and build a great deal of trust with our community. As our children grow into adulthood, it is very important for them to know the support and guidance of our local law enforcement. School resource officers provide that bridge to teach our children how law enforcement is an agency that is for them. And I believe in Santa Barbara we can work with our SROs and with different organizations to ensure that people of color and the disabled will be positively affected by their presence." And I bring this petition to you today not as a result of the incidents that occurred, but because we don't have one. I do not think that having one at this time would have prevented what had happened, but it just enlightened the fact that one does not exist and we lost him this year. And this petition, by the way, no way reflects my opinions about the administration at San Marcos, and that coming from a small school outside the district to a much larger public school, I am only impressed and thankful for our experiences to date. It's exceeded all my expectations, and months ago I wrote a letter to Ed Behrens and his administration stating as such. I had an issue, and the administration approached it with surprising flexibility, cooperation, and support. The teachers are caring. They make subject matters interesting, and they encourage their kids to give their best, and the counselors are willing to go the extra mile. An experience such as mine is only possible by the work done at the top of the administration and how it is communicated and supported by all the staff. Thank you.
Marla, to be followed by Christina Lang.
Hello. Good evening, everyone, fellow school community, board members, and superintendent. My name is Marla Arciniega, and I'm an organizer with Just Communities Can Do. Can Do is a youth organization that stands for Change Agent Network for Dismantling Oppression. And we are geared towards discussing around topics of oppression of targeted groups, such as what we're discussing today. I'm here today to express my concern even more ardently as a recent UCSB graduate who suffered the real consequences of the worst case scenario coming to life. And it's shocking that the urgency isn't reciprocated. As a youth organizer, I made phone calls to the students that are most involved at San Marcos High School with Allies for Equity, Mujercitas, Mecha, and the feedback on the communication they had received on this incident reflected very poor student connectedness and student safety amongst them. And that's what I'm here to share and use my time to do. Our students, at least the students I'm working with from our district, do not feel connected or safe within each other. And it's up to us who are understanding the situation from a more ego's point of view to help them with those tools on how to prevent this and how to work from this. I believe that those tools come from ethnic studies now, and those tools come from more community and more connectedness within each other. I seize my time. Thank you, everyone.
Christina Lane, to be followed by Dr. Jonathan Gomez.
Thank you very much for the time. My very first time at a board meeting here. I could have been doing something else. I'm interested in oil drilling issues. I was missing a meeting tonight, but this is much more important. I want to just state that I won't take any much more time. I have a lot of respect for Santa Barbara Surge and for the students here and for the parents who have suffered and are worrying about their kids in school. I think that we don't need to start another school to prison pipeline. You've heard that phrase. I think that that is a reality. I'd like to see the community, people like me with no children in the district, to support and get more involved with ethnic studies, with getting things done, with understanding systemic racism when these concerns come up. Protection does not mean it starts with a cop. And I have great respect for individual policemen, believe me. I have some in my family and I love them dearly. Thank you very much.
Dr. Jonathan Gomez. Okay. To be followed by Carlos G.
Hello, public and the board. My name is Jonathan Gomez. I come here as a member of the Santa Barbara community. At UCSB, I'm a member, research associate at the Center for Black Studies Research. In the community, I'm a member of the Santa Barbara City College Equity Committee, our Student Equity Committee. I'm also a board member of El Centro, the Santa Barbara Lower West Side Community Center. I come here today with a deep concern over the time and manner in which students, parents, and community were notified about the act of violence. But more so, I come here in support of parents and students who were targeted. Listening to their stories about how they were overlooked and underserved, or not served at all, was extremely heartbreaking and concerning. Someone who has taught in the community at El Puente. I've started programs there for youth there. I've taught courses at Los Prietos Boys Camp, as well as teaching in other capacities in the community. When the police are involved in Santa Barbara, it is a particular group of students who are targeted and impacted unfavorably, right? You know, in every experience that I've had working at Los Prietos Boys Camp, the dark ones, right, and translated in English, you look up there and it is dark young men who are people of color, young men of color who are serving sentences for very minor actions, things that students at UCSB get away with on a weekend any day, right?
30 seconds.
And so when we see that happening, right, we have to be concerned. And so I stand with Poder, you know, in their efforts to create holistic efforts at addressing these issues, ways of being and ways of knowing in our society that get to the root of the causes. And I don't think a police officer does that, right? So it's something for us to think about. And thank you for your time. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Carlos G. to be followed by Ali Guajardo.
I want to start by thanking the parents and the community for coming out and speaking their voice to these representatives. And as I was sitting down listening to a lot of the folks, I couldn't help but think about the Isla Vista shooting, right? So I started looking up online and I started reading this person's manifesto. And just to continue to echo a lot of the voices of the people that have shared, you know, we need to focus on things that are preventative and not reactionary. A cop on the school, like the other folks have stated, is only going to further bring violence to the community, to the people of color, to the students of color. So I don't see that as a solution. The solution is really ethics studies now. You've heard multiple people mention it. This is a preventative measure that is going to address this. You know, how do we get rid of a rape culture? How do we address misogyny? How do we decolonize our schools in a way that doesn't uphold an illegally occupying government? How do we address white supremacy? We have Nazis walking around everywhere. You know, ethnic studies is a preventative measure that's going to prevent from these invasive ideas in being installed into the kids' minds, because whether you like it or not, the way the school system is set up now, it's a colonial institution that perpetuates this violence upon our people, whether it is women, indigenous folks, queer people, transgender people, you know, you name them. You know, they're daily impacted by these institutions that uphold these ideas. So if you truly want to address those, and you don't want your seeds to be poisoned by this horrendous disease, you need to apply ethnic studies now.
Ali Guado, to be followed by Isabella Petretto.
Hello, my name is Alicia Guajardo, and I'm here today as a concerned community member as well as a concerned Santa Barbara County mental health worker. I'm currently working with a program that maybe some of you are familiar with, RISE, Resiliency Interventions for Sexual Exploitation, and the females that I work with are directly impacted by the culture in the Santa Barbara School District. So I'm here today to support Borded's suggestions and demands. I do not think punishment is the answer, although these boys need to be held accountable. Education comes first. We need to bring awareness to the issues at hand. So I am against a SRO in law enforcement, as many of my friends and community members have mentioned the research on that, so I will not go into that. Also, I'm coming here today to advocate for the collaboration with Santa Barbara County Mental Health. We have spoken with Susan Grimsey, who is our Chief Quality Care and Strategy Officer. She's spoken to the principal of the school. And so I'm here to offer support and collaboration. And I ask that you guys utilize our services and make our services aware so that students have access and there's no stigma attached to that. I'm also advocating for education before punishment, and in support with ethnic studies now, we need to bring awareness to this issue before something tragic happens again. Thank you.
Isabella, to be followed by Scott Ward.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for your time. My name is Isabella Restrepo. I am a doctoral student at the University of California, Santa Barbara. I am a critical criminologist, which is a fancy way of saying that I essentially study the role of police and policing institutions in the lives of youth. This is my research. And actually, the first thing that I do want to say is I stand in solidarity with the demands that Poder is making. I agree that the demands of the other parent group have important aspects of them, but I absolutely do not agree with the bringing of an SRO to campus. So when the solution to this issue is police presence on campus, it's clear that students of color are not being centered in the conversations about protection. Police officers on campuses, as many folks have already stated, are detrimental to the success of students of color on campus, on high school campuses, specifically brown and black youth, including girls. So this means that the girls that are targeted in this incident will not be protected by an SRO. That will not protect girls of color. So my question to folks who are proposing that is, who does that protect? Who are you trying to protect here? Because the answer is quite clear that it's not girls of color. So this proposal is punitive. Punitive measures have proven time and time again to be incredibly harmful to students. it's imperative that we move forward with preventative measures like education as opposed to punitive measures like expulsions and SROs on campus. And I also want to say quickly that when we're talking about students and punishing individual students, what we're doing is we're individualizing this issue. Thank you. We're individualizing this issue. This is a systemic issue. This is not something that happens solely at home. This is not something that happens solely with individuals who are perpetuating this. This is something that exists in the institutions, the schools your children are attending. So individual punishments won't address rape culture, unfortunately, as much as I know we all wish they would. They don't. And so, again, I stand in solidarity with the high school girls who were targeted through by this, in solidarity with Bodet's demands, and I vehemently oppose an SRO on campus. Thank you.
Scott Rowe, to be followed by Tim Warner.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to share a couple comments with you. When I first saw the agenda item, I thought we were going to get a summary of where things stood through your investigations and through your discussions. It just said a 30-minute block led by the superintendent. Are we going to have further discussion about where things stand today and what the current situation is tonight? Or is it just public commentary that you're taking on this matter? Public commentary. Okay.
We're taking public comment.
Okay, so regarding the current situation, we have some great ideas about the big picture. Can we talk about the small picture? What's happening on campus right now? What's happening on campus right now is a climate of fear. The girls are afraid. They're looking over their shoulder. My daughter said to me, "Dad, are those Nazi boys going to hurt me when I go to class tomorrow?" That's the current situation. That's what's happening today. These boys engaged in crimes, cyberbullying, cyberstalking, threat with a gun. That's 422.2. That's a state crime. Where do things stand today to keep them out of our campus and keep our young women safe on school campus? I don't know. So this climate of fear is real, and it comes from the lack of communication. So the tipping point is fear and what's reasonable fear. But we don't know what's reasonably fear. We can't measure it unless you've really stated the problem. So the problem is you've got a group of boys who are self-described neo-Nazis.
30 seconds.
Thank you. I'll try and respect that. And they've gone out and they've created this climate of fear by saying they're going to target certain girls through hate crimes. They're going to target people of color. They're going to target my daughter, your daughter, and your son because of who they are as a class. So when we looked at this, we look for you for information so we can make informed decisions because we're the parents. These are our children. We trust you with them. And my daughters love San Marcos. They have a great time there. They enjoy sports, extracurricular activities, and of course their schoolwork, straight A's. They love it. But the problem right now is they can't be trusted to go on campus and feel like they're safe. So I'll send you some notes on a letter. We can talk about that. And I do want to share with you that this is a shot of the chat. That is a Nazi swastika. That is what these boys represent themselves as. This is what we need to stop.
Thank you, Mr. Rode. Tim Warner, to be followed by Brandy Hugili.
My name is Tim Warner. I'm a parent for 5 years now at San Marcos. My kids, 2 kids that have attended San Marcos, have had a phenomenal experience. My wife and I are very involved parents with the school. The school is doing amazing things. Love Ed Behrens. I've known him for probably 20 years since he first was hired as a history teacher. Stand-up character. Have total support for him, the school board. I look around, and this is a great meeting. We're getting both sides of the coin out. We have a very diverse group here speaking from their heart. We have lots of concerns. We have a great board here, a very diverse board here as well. I have faith that you guys will look at the whole picture and address the situation, how it needs to be addressed, hopefully as quick as possible. Regarding a school resource officer, maybe the resource officer should be a Latino female. Maybe something like that might help address a lot of concerns. You know, diversity is great. The ethnic studies program, phenomenal idea. Maybe start it at the junior high or younger age. I really support that.
30 seconds.
I'll speed it up if you get out.
Brandon Yaguri, to be followed by the final speaker, Sharon Allen.
Hello, members of the board, board president, and family members, community members. We were running a live stream in the back over there that's reached a few thousand people, and a couple people shared comments because they weren't able to be here tonight. I just want to read two because those are the first that came through, and that's probably all we have time for, and then I want to share some personal comments. Per Hole shares he's tuning in because I'm concerned about ideas being put forth to put more police and guns in local schools, a grossly inappropriate response to a disturbing situation that does pose genuine questions. And then a Cesar Trujillo comments, I'm a SB school district parent and I approve Poder's demands for our students. And those are the two comments regarding this matter of conversation that we received there. And I just wanted to reflect personally. So I went to UCSB as a student, and while I was there, I worked on a project called Juvenile Injustice with Professor Richard Ross, who some people are aware of his work, and spent a good amount of time working with incarcerated youth. And so I just wanted to speak a little bit from that perspective, and then as a light brown boy who went to UCSB and interacted a lot with police in Isla Vista. So both from the criminal justice side, in terms of looking at the young people that we see in prisons and in detention, though overwhelmingly people of color, there's a lot of data and evidence to support that, and it's not by accident that they're there. It's through interaction with the types of officers that are being proposed or being requested by 1,000, I'm assuming mostly white parents, whose children may not have the kinds of negative experiences that a lot of us do with these types of officers. In IV, we actually had over 100 officers in IV just a few weeks prior to what happened in 2014 in May, and I don't think anyone would say that any of those officers could have or did do anything to prevent what happened there. So I ask that we get more creative and we look to the voices in the back who are here and sharing with us proper solutions. Thanks.
Thank you. And Sharon Allen, the final speaker.
Good evening. My name is Sharon Allen. After 7 years of passionate involvement at San Marcos High School, I have come to know and greatly appreciate our culture and our community. We welcome and encourage all new families and any interested community members to join us in the spirit of collaboration as well as continuous improvement. I'm encouraged to see the blame, negativity, and misinformation softening. We need to focus our efforts in a unified manner in order to reach our common goal, which is to educate our students in a safe and enriching environment. I believe we can take elements from Superintendent Matsuoka's framework, as well as some ideas from parents, to produce a more evolved safety protocol that can be used district-wide for future incidents. It should be reviewed regularly so it can continue to evolve with the increasing challenge of cybersecurity. And with that, I thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
All right, thank you again for everyone's perspectives and for your comments. We really appreciate them. And with that, I'm going to open it up to our board members for any comments that they would like to make. Ms. Parker.
First of all, can I have some clarification? Are Just Communities and ADL, are they here tonight?
Yes, and they're coming after we dialogue together, and they will present afterwards.
Okay. I think, I know that everybody in this room has read Mr. Matsuoka's letter, but I am concerned that members of the public who can't be here or who will just watch this on video later, that they are going to have to go to the website, and one of your 5 action steps is that there is a web page that's dedicated to this. But I was actually wondering if you could just give us, a 1-minute summary of the 5 steps that you're taking.
Sure. Mr. Rouse will scroll. So the communication steps, and maybe at this point, if you could jump out to the protocol, the website. So as we looked at the communication response, and we had built a 3-tiered response system, or it's really a decision-making tree. And so that if something like this happens in the future, yep, it's that one. So this is a framework that we are putting into place. I mean, we've operated with this in almost every incident, at least that I've been managing in the last 19 months. But I think it's important for the community, for parents to see a protocol in place. And so we've broken this down into low impact, moderate impact, and then the bottom one is, the word is high impact. And we have the communication vehicles that we will use to get word out. And then there's some guidance over to the right about how we need to handle ourselves. First thing we have to do is stabilize the situation, and then quickly we have to get communication out. So we have written this down. Again, we have followed this in all these situations, Thomas Fire, Montecito. This one, as I've stated over the last couple weeks, we were late to communicating to our parents. And you shouldn't find out through the TV station. You should find out from us when something of this impact happens. So that's the first response in the letter. If you go back to the letter. So, school resource officer, we have 2 very different perspectives tonight. In my career around high schools, which now spans 35 years, I've seen school resource officers be an asset for schools. I hear the concerns about the data, and that's something that we'll have to debate as a school and as a community. But I've worked successfully with many officers across probably 5 or 6 different jurisdictions in my career, and they are helpful. Hate and bias intervention. So we have got the direct support of Just Communities and Anti-Defamation League. We're going to have them speak tonight about initial plans that are going into place. They actually have already started. Activities begin tomorrow on campus. Digital citizenship. So we took a team of tech coaches and we deployed them immediately to start educating our students, your students, about how to be a citizen in this cyberspace, about how to be a citizen with technology and instant access. We do have a, in there, so we have a tool called Stop It. It really is a broad tool for anybody who reports something that they're concerned about. It's anonymous. It gets to all levels of leadership so that we know what's going on. And I think this addresses a lot of situations, not only this one, but even the concerns of the parent about, coaching, about all situations where students feel like they are not safe. And then the bottom one, we've got a web page, and we will add content to that as we build it.
Thank you, and I'm sure people who will be viewing this later would appreciate that, although this is available, again, at the website, which is sbunified.org/SMHS-incident. I hope that actually at some point we change that URL, because this is not really about San Marcos. I mean, it is about San Marcos, but this is about Santa Barbara Unified. And so I hope that we can transition that to something that it just explains for all parents what we do and what we would do, because the communication has always been an issue, and digital citizenship and problems around cyberbullying and cyber threats, they're only going to grow, unfortunately. I would just say that I look forward. I know that there's a lot of work that's going to be going on with the community and with San Marcos in particular at this point, but it does need to broaden out to our other schools as well. And I think that at this point, we're on a much better track than we were. And so I appreciate all the work that parents have done and that members of the community have done in terms of emailing us, contacting us, and coming here tonight to speak. I will say on the SRO piece, this is the first year that San Marcos has not had an SRO in the years that I've been on the board. I've been on 12 years at this point. And in past years, in the early days, it was shared with Dos Pueblos. It's been dedicated at San Marcos. And they've each of the 3 high schools, of the comprehensive high schools, have had their own SRO. So we actually have our own data. And so what I would ask is that we look at our own data, because If it's similar to what you see nationwide, then of course that's something that we really need to debate. We anecdotally get so much positive feedback from the high schools about the effect of the SROs, but I think that we should break that down and examine that before we move forward with it. And I think that that's all I'll say at this point, and let other board members have their time.
Thank you, Ms. Parker. Ms. Capps.
Thank you. I wanted to thank everybody for being here. We, as a board, have been, I can speak for myself, this has been so challenging to watch unfold, and my heart goes out to you. Dr. Reed started this off by saying that she's a mom, and you have 4 moms up here on the board, and I can only imagine the fear that went through all of you and is going on. I hear you, that it's still a present fear. I mean, I worry about my son every day about small things, skinning his knee and things like that, and we shouldn't have to worry about this. It's so disturbing, and I appreciated the comments today, how forward-thinking they were. I watched the video. We weren't able to be there last Monday, but the anger is real and it's justified. And what I thought about as a parent, especially those of you whose daughters were named, but everybody, this really affects everybody. And I echo that this is not just San Marcos, this is Santa Barbara High, this is our other schools, this is Dos Pueblos. I thought about the challenge of what you do as a parent when you're scared yourself and there's fear and your child is scared, and you have to then put your fear aside to sort of reassure them that everything's going to be okay, and that that our schools and our district didn't give you that reassurance that we are supposed to. I think we're on a better track now, but I know that Superintendent Matsuoka has apologized, and I just wanted to extend that apology because I really I understand that essence of how hard that must have been and still is to not feel as though you're getting the right information, that things were not happening when you yourself is going through perhaps one of the most terrifying experiences in your family, not to mention on the heels of a really scary time in our community. So I just empathize, and it makes me want to, like you all today, think about the action and not to sort of dwell on what could have been handled better and what you deserved more justly, but to go forward. And this parent group, I'm so impressed. I've just only been able to glance at it, but I will read this thoroughly. What you've done is exactly when I saw this plan, I thought, okay, when? When's the timeline? We've already had too much time go by. When are we going to see each and every one of these? And you've put these in 30 days here, 30 days there. And so just as a board member, my role will be to ask those questions of our team here. When is this going to happen? When are these protocols going to get updated? When is that, since Columbine, it's a new protocol for a school shooting. When are we going to have that? And that's really our role, is to hold this excellent team, very capable team, accountable and sort of ask those questions. So thank you for getting me going, and just know that I'm with you, and I will be asking those questions, and really this is just a beginning of a process here, and hopefully a lot of change. But I just wanted to first and foremost, just my heart goes out to you as parents. Thanks.
Thank you. And just want to echo the gratitude I feel for our community members being here. Excuse me, my voice comes and goes. The community members who are here, our parents, our students, again, even those of you who don't have connection to our local schools, I think it's wonderful to have you all here. We need to hear those voices. I know the culture that my parents grew up, you trusted the schools. You worked in the morning, or they went off to school. The minute that those kids walked through that door, that was it. That was the school's responsibility, and it was their responsibility to help rear those students, educate those students. So I can only imagine, I'm not a parent myself, but I can only imagine just how dismayed you might have felt. The distrust, the anger, the infuriation that I've heard tonight regarding this, and as Mr. Matsuoka has said, we messed up. You know, there are things that we missed, there are things that need to be fixed, and we really need to look at fixing those closely. We can't do a knee-jerk reaction. That's the one thing I do want to say. It cannot absolutely be done out of fear. I have my own thoughts on having, even a light-skinned person of color, I have my own thoughts on having SRO or having weapons on like any campus, let alone just a high school campus. But if we are going to consider this as an option, I want it looked at, as Ms. Parker said, I want it to be looked at, not just the national data, but our own data. Make sure that if it does comply with each other, then I'm hoping we make the appropriate recommendations and take the appropriate actions, and it is something that we need to look at within not a swift timeline, but an appropriate timeline, something we cannot absolutely drag our feet on. As I said at the beginning, my parents' culture was you trust the schools to take care of your children, you help them, you trust them to rear them, and I take that seriously as a school board member, as a former substitute teacher, as a former student teacher, as former director, of an organization that helped our students, especially our first-generation low-income students. It is absolutely important that our families feel engaged, that they trust us, that they feel they can work with us, and that our students feel the exact same way. I can't tell you how many times that I felt, even in Santa Barbara Unified, as wonderful as Santa Barbara is, how unengaged sometimes I felt, not just with other students, but also other faculty, other staff, administration as well. And I want to make sure, I want us to see progress towards having a real dialogue, a real relationship, and I've seen that successfully in anecdotal instances, and I think it's wonderful. We need to spread that out. I think when I read this documentation originally, I think my biggest problem was that it named San Marcos too often. Yes, the incident was at San Marcos, but it was also at other schools, and it is important that we spread this out across the district as a whole, or else we really are letting you as a community down, and we're not doing our job as a district as a whole.
Ms. Sims-Mountain.
Thank you. If you can't feel my heart beating, you might see it. It's beating really fast because I really, really do understand the conversations, your fear, your concerns, your lack of trust, all of those things. If one person doesn't trust us, that's one too many. In that simple statement, as I sit here and think about this, the fact that we're here as parents, as a community, as a board member, that one is just one too many. And I echo all the comments with regards to my board members that they've said ahead of that. And your voices are very important, and to say thank you for being here seems inadequate, but really my gratitude for you coming in and taking your time out of your evenings, your busy lives, and leaving your children, to come and speak to us. But those voices impact our protocols and our policies, and sometimes change those in a way. And it also holds us accountable. So thank you in my very inadequate way of coming and letting us know how you're feeling. And, as a board member, as everyone has expressed, we feel that we let you down. And as a parent, we understand that. It has not gone, hadn't missed us at one point. And so, again, appreciate you coming here. But as we think about this, we're able to see each other through tragedies, unfortunately, sometimes, but we need to see each other, hear each other, because that's how we move forward in terms of that. And I do agree with my colleagues, we need to have a firm timeline as to why we're going to do this, because we can show you better than we can tell you, because you need action there. So thank you again for coming.
So I have to just say a few things too. I know I spoke earlier, but I want to just reiterate all of my colleagues and fellow board members. I think the idea of looking at the data nationally, community-wide, here at the district. I think looking not only at San Marcos, but across the district and secondary, but I'm a passionate believer in starting early, beginning in elementary. What can we be doing? What sort of dialoguing can be going on to start the conversation and not wait until we wait till secondary, but really begin to understand, and there's different ways of educating students. I used to teach elementary school, so I know what we can be doing. I also think being proactive about it, having the timelines, having that set in place. I too appreciate your guidance with that and your input. I believe that for something to work, it needs to be a co-construction, and it's been amazing to hear your perspectives, to get your feedback, to hear your anger, and to understand it, but also to feel your pain and to empathize. And a multitude of feelings, like Ms. Sims-Moten said. I mean, there's a multitude of feelings. And yeah, that I felt personally that I did not do what I needed to do, that I could have done something more proactive. So I think it has been a good learning experience for myself, being new to the board, but I understand that what we need to do is what we did do today, and I want to acknowledge the respectful dialogue, the inclusive conversation that we, all of you, brought forward, and that's what it takes. To make something, to have it move forward, we need to work together. We need to acknowledge that there have been challenges, that there have been mistakes, but also that there are opportunities here. There are great opportunities. And so, speaking of opportunities, I feel like it's a great lead-in to our Executive Director, Cindy Silverman from the Anti-Defamation League, to launch a discussion or sort of a presentation of what the Anti-Defamation League can be doing to co-construct this with the community. And I'm not sure, is this something you want to do in conjunction with okay, so, and also Jared Schwartz will be coming up from Just Communities. So together, here we have perfect collaboration of co-construction to discuss the next steps, what we are trying to get started, and actually I think has started. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to the school board, and thank you to Superintendent Matsuoka for inviting us. Jared and I share a nonprofit building. We're next door neighbors, so it's a great opportunity, both civil rights organizations, and we're really excited to have the opportunity to work together and to create some change. It sounds like we need some work, not just in the school systems, but in the community, because I see a divide here in the community that needs to be healed also. There's some really different points of view. We're going to start tomorrow. First, we need to respond to the incident. There's been an incident. It's egregious. I'm a mother. Jared has 2 daughters. I have a daughter. This is egregious. I think we've heard a lot of apologies for slow response. I don't think you'll see that happen again. I think we'll have a lot of systems in place for responding next time. Hopefully, there won't be a next time, but from what we're seeing across the country, this is not new. We've got something just as bad in San Francisco that just happened recently, too. So tomorrow we'll be working with teachers to giving them tools, strategies. There are a wide range from students who are fearful because they have no idea what happened, students who are directly involved, students who just say, I don't know. I don't even know what's going on. So first of all, we need to make sure that the community and the students understand, look, something happened, and here's how we're going to respond to it, because the fear in the community amongst not only the students but the parents is really palpable. So we're going to work with students, or the teachers tomorrow. They're going to go into the classroom and have conversations with some really clear ideas and strategies about how to have these conversations. We don't want to leave the teachers in a place where they don't know how to have the conversations. And Jared and my educator, Brianna Mofford, are really excellent at having these conversations. So we'll be in the schools tomorrow. We're going to organize a parent meeting next week. We're going to bring Colm in to talk about the emotional piece of this. Jared and I are going to talk to the parents about the kinds of things that you can do, strategies for moving forward. We have lots of resources. Both of our organizations have amazing resources. So first we'll deal with what is explicit bias. This was very explicit bias. But explicit bias comes from implicit bias. So down the road, we've really got to begin to look at what we're doing as a community, the way we're thinking, the way we're we're acting, because we don't want this to happen again. And I did tell parents, I met with a bunch of parents last week at the library, and I have to say, I give this community a lot of credit. This was egregious, but you know what? The community stood up, acted quickly, and nobody was hurt, and it's been taken care of. And so next time, we're going to get it before it happens. So we're going to get this so we don't even have to be in the place we are now where we're dealing with an incident. So I'm really grateful for all of you, grateful that I get to work with Jared on this, and I think that you can trust us to come up with some good plans and give you some good tools and strategies going forward.
I also want to thank everyone for inviting us in today to talk and for inviting us to really work in with the schools. I'm really encouraged by seeing so many parents out here tonight, so many parents active over the last couple of weeks. I do also, like Cindy said, there's also a divide. To me, what's encouraging is that the vast majority of things that parents have recommended, there's some real commonality from all the different parent groups that have been active. And there are a couple of areas where there's some real difference as well. And so I think one of the things we do need to look at is how do we really help our community come together and understand each other's perspectives and experiences to understand why those areas where there's overlap are there and why those areas where there are differences are there. In terms of some of the work that we are going to start tomorrow with the schools, in addition to providing resources, we're going to spend some time really hearing from the teachers what are they struggling with right now. Where are the areas where they really feel equipped to work with the students, and where are the areas where they don't? We want to make sure, as Cindy said, we have a lot of resources to offer, but we want to make sure we're offering the ones that the teachers really need, the ones the students really need, and not just throwing programs and activities at everyone. So that's part of our work, is really to kind of get a gauge of what the faculty need. And next Tuesday, when we have the parent meeting at San Marcos, we want to do the same thing with parents. Really hear, when you're talking with your children at home, when you're working with your children at home, what are the areas where you feel like you already have the resources you need, and what are the areas where you're struggling in these conversations? The other piece is, one of the items up on the board is to really talk about issues of hate and bias. And so we're fortunate with ADL to have one of the nation's leading experts organizations on hate and bias. But we also want to get specific into the specific type of hate and bias that was exhibited in this particular incident, and that's issues of misogyny, sexism, violent masculinity. And so we're going to be offering resources not only on kind of the broad issues of hate and violence when we work with the teachers, when we work with the parents, but also some specific concrete resources on misogyny, on violent masculinity, on sexism, and what teachers can do to have conversations about these issues in their classrooms, what parents can do to have conversations about these issues at home. So we look forward to hearing more about what you want and what you need. We look forward to working more with the school district and the community to really make sure that we're providing this not only in a short-term response, but in a long-term effort to address these issues.
All right, thank you very much for coming tonight. And again, thank you, parents, for sharing with us tonight. We're going to move forward to G2, consideration.
Dr. Reed, could I just ask one thing on that,
Yes.
on their presentation, and that is just that as much as it's great that they're starting at San Marcos right away, I just want to be sure and reiterate that we are expanding that to our other schools as time goes by.
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Parker. So we'll add that to the timeline. So G2, consideration of exchange of leasehold properties between Santa Barbara Unified School District and the City of Santa Barbara. Mr. Matsuoka.
So the board wanted to offer an opportunity for the public to hear some of the background information about this land swap. And so we've got our legal counsel, Mr. Craig Price, also really present to give a lot of the background info. So the board has been briefed about this multiple times, and I think for the public to have a chance to weigh in, we wanted the public to hear some of the background info and really some of the history about this land swap deal. So I think, should we invite Mr. Price up to give an overview?
That would be great. Mr. Price, would you join us at the microphone?
Good evening, board members.
The land swap in question has been under discussion for several years now. As you know, it involves a small corner of La Cumbre Junior High School, where over 50 years ago it was leased to the city, and with their funds they constructed Fire Station Number 5, which has continued to operate during the interim. The lease was originally for 50 years, as I said, and it's been extended a couple of times. On the other end of the exchange is a small parcel adjacent to Franklin School, which actually houses some portable buildings presently that are used for Adelante. The district determined years ago that it really had no compelling need to retain the small parcel at La Cumbre, and that depending upon future funding, as in the bond measure, it may well have a permanent need to acquire the land under the portables because of the compactness of the Franklin Adelante school site. And so beginning at least in 2011, discussions began with respect to an exchange. At that time, the district retained a local appraisal firm to evaluate the two properties, and that appraisal concluded that the value of the La Cumbre site was approximately $400,000, and the value of what I'm calling the Franklin site was about twice that, or $800,000. The two parcels are very close in size to one another. At the time of the original discussions, there was some consideration being proposed that there may have to be a payment made as far as the differential, meaning a payment by the Santa Barbara School District. For a variety of reasons, that was not deemed acceptable because of the money needed to be paid, but also because of the uncertainty that existed at that time over whether there was going to be a long-time benefit and need to acquire additional property adjacent to Franklin that had been used for some number of years. And so as time went on, the discussions came back because the leases of both parcels are now set to expire in April of this year. And so the question becomes, does the district and do the city wish to move forward with the exchange? Now, there was some communication that was directed to the board today. It's reflective of some things that have been raised in the past by some very important local residents, and I'd just like to comment briefly on those. One of those dealt with the fact that in valuing the La Cumbre property, we have not taken into account the value of the improvements, and that's absolutely correct. And the reason for that is because we don't own those improvements. Leasehold property means that unless there are improvements on the site at the time the property is leased, when you lease vacant land, the lessor or the landlord retains ownership of the land, and improvements that are allowed to be constructed become the property of the tenant, in this case the city. They own the fire station, and the lease requires that at the conclusion of the lease, that those improvements have to be taken down. So there's absolutely no value from either a legal or a practical standpoint in those improvements. And for that reason, there's never been any serious discussion about factoring in that if the city were to lose those improvements, that would inflict damage and hurt upon the city, because your board and previous boards have never felt that that was an appropriate stance to take for a variety of reasons, but in particular because those improvements weren't paid for and built by you, they're not owned by you, and at the end of the lease, should this exchange not go through, and if the lease not be extended, you won't have any benefit from those improvements. So that was one thing that was raised that I wanted to comment upon. Another issue that was brought to our attention had to do with whether the appraisal in 2011 properly evaluated the Franklin property, having to do with the fact that the site that is proposed to be part of the exchange is residentially zoned. It's R2 zoned. But way back in 1971, when I graduated from law school, way back then, the City Planning Commission, in approving the construction of the city library, said that in approving that use in an R2 zone, that the property was going to continue to be used for public purposes. Meaning, for some reason, if some other use was going to be appropriate, you're not going to put some commercial facility or some non-public facility into an R2 zone, at least without going back before the city and getting the requisite approvals all the way up to the level of the council. So I would just respectfully say that I don't think that a 1971 resolution of the City Planning Commission has any real impact on the value of the site, but in any event, even if it did, our last appraisal shows that the value of the Franklin site is twice that of the La Cumbre site. And the very last thing that I would add would be that over the last several years that my office, including myself, has been involved in having to work with the city of Santa Barbara on a wide variety of real property issues. We have had a very, very collaborative relationship, and that involves going back to needing to fast track some very difficult and complex land use arrangements at Washington School that resulted in something very, very beneficial that without the city's cooperation, I'm not sure could have been accomplished, to clearing some very substantial title issues at Santa Barbara High School, where old city streets are still owned by the city, and they fully cooperated in terms of doing what needs to be necessary, also on a fast-track basis to be consistent with our short timeline for the now under construction Peabody Stadium. The same thing holds true for planned improvements at Santa Barbara Junior High School and needing to do with needing to deal with street issues, and it goes on and on and on. As you know, the city and the school district were both identified in the legislation that went into effect the beginning of 2017 with respect to the possible acquisition of the Armory property. And that legislation actually said that an option would be given to either the city or the school district. And the city, very early on, made it very clear that they were not going to stand in the way of the school district doing what it could and what it took in the effort to acquire the Armory property. And since that time, the city has been fully cooperative in assisting us in a variety of different ways in dealing with technical issues that are associated with the Armory negotiations. So in sum, for the reasons I've described and for others I'm not going to go into, I know in speaking with staff in any number of meetings, we feel that this is an extremely beneficial exchange, that it's a fair exchange, and at the end of the day, should the board approve it, we're going to be obtaining a valuable piece of real estate that is presently used for educational purposes, that we're going to have a continuing need for in some way, shape, or fashion because of the limitations at the Franklin site. And in exchange for that, giving up a very small portion of the La Cumbre Junior High School site that we have not had any need for over the last half century, and for which there's no foreseeable need in the future. So that's it.
Well, thank you, Mr. Price, for such a thorough explanation at 5 of 9 after a long evening, but I appreciate it. So, board members, do we have any comments or questions for Mr. Price?
Ms. Parker. I have comments and questions. Or maybe it's just comments. I want to clarify, first of all, that before closed session, we had a number of speakers because this was a closed session item discussion as well. And so for members of the public that are watching this, we essentially had two groups that were here. One was the Santa Barbara County Taxpayers Association, and they've sent us a number of emails around this issue. And then also members of the Adelante School, charter school community, very concerned that, and I'll just speaking on the Adelante piece, they're concerned that if we talk about this as in terms of, oh, we're getting this land for the portables that are at Adelante, that they will be fixed there in the sense that you know, they would like perhaps a different school site altogether, or they don't want to be too tied to it. And so I just wanted to say personally, I have no problem with removing Adelante from any language about this swap. And I don't have any problem. One of the things that the Santa Barbara County Taxpayers Association asked for was that this not be on the action agenda until March 13th. And so I guess one question I have for you, Mr. Price, is there any problem with us waiting to take action on this until March 13th, our first meeting, our only meeting in March?
No, we're obviously under a tight timeline because of the expiration of the leases in April, but doing it at that time is not going to prevent the parties moving forward, either with the exchange, should your board not approve it, or some other disposition in a timely way.
Yeah. And I'll just say that I think that especially for the members of the public from the Santa Barbara County Taxpayers Association who have been longtime board watchers and district watchers, that there was frustration over the years. I mean, the initial lease was in 1966, and it was a decades-long lease. Was it a 50-year lease, Mr. Price? It was very, very long.
Originally 50, yes.
And it was fixed at the 1966 lease rate. And there's been frustration with that over the years, and even the opportunity for the city to help us out with the Franklin property, you know, that's very recent actually, relatively speaking, and so I can totally understand frustration with that, feeling like, well, you know, you gave at this incredibly discounted rate, you know, a 50-year discounted rate essentially. And is this really the right thing to do? Also, the board over the past 10 years has looked at this exchange always in context with the other easement issues, with we have an issue at Peabody School where there's a piece of school property that has a road running over it by the city, and so it's always been looked at in total context. And so I totally understand why this is an issue for some members of the public and for the Santa Barbara County Taxpayers Association. I also really do feel like it's so helpful for the city and the school district to be partners in this, and then there are positives, and I understand what you're presenting as well. I would love to hear more from members of the public as we move forward with this on for action on March 13th to see if there's some way that we can ease the concerns of the Santa Barbara County Taxpayers Association when we take final action. So.
Ms. Capps.
I just wanted to take Ms. Parker's comment just a bit further and actually request that we don't include Adelante in the language, if that's possible.
Yeah.
Great, thanks.
All right, so I think we're requesting to have this put on the, is it March 13th, action item? And we'll go ahead and if we can move forward with that.
And we will revise the documentation to make sure that the request concerning including the name Adelante is removed.
Thank you.
Let me ask the board, I think we should put this on the agenda for February 27th, just so that, if there are members of whatever group that have concerns, that it is an agendized item that they get to speak to, rather than coming to present public comment about something that's not on the agenda. I just think that's a more transparent way to give the public their opportunity for conversation. So it's almost like, okay, another first reading or second or third reading, and then the board has their decision on March 13th.
Great.
Okay.
That sounds good. Thank you.
So are you available? Well, we'll talk about your calendar.
We'll talk. Okay, so we have one consent agenda item that Ms. Parker pulled E1.
Yes, I pulled E1, and that is because it was a ratification. I know that we're trying to avoid this kind of thing. It does really concern me that we have students going, sorry.
Sorry about Ms. Parker. We had pulled the final report items.
Sorry.
So that's why we're moving forward to the consent agenda items.
Yeah.
We thought you guys knew that.
Thank you. Okay, I was like, wow, this is more confusing than I thought. Yes, so just because I worry when we have students leave the district on overnight field trips, and without it coming forward for board approval ahead of time. I know that it happens occasionally, and I appreciate that we can do this. I actually really appreciate that we can do this. I just always want to call attention to it because I want to avoid it.
Absolutely, and we wanted to be very transparent with all of you about the fact that this was a mistake on our part as staff. I've personally spoken to Ms. Lockridge at Washington, and it will be an ongoing communication with our principals about ensuring that our timelines are appropriate to give the board the vantage point of asking the right questions or seeking the right level of information, particularly when trips like these are largely calendared far enough in advance. So my apologies for that, and we've addressed the issue, and I think we'll be much more prudent moving forward.
I just also want to point out that if God forbid, somebody were injured away, and I know that our insurance company would say, please show us the board minutes where the board approved that trip. And so I just want to be super cautious about that in the future. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and move that we ratify the approval of student field trips out of state, out of country, and/or overnight.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And it passes unanimously. Let's move forward. We just have a few more items here. Coming events. Any coming events? Mr. Paredes Ulloa.
Just wanted to, where is it? March 16th, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's March, my calendar is the wrong one. I believe, March 9th, I'm sorry, it's actually March 9th. March 9th, we're having the high school conference, leadership conference at Santa Barbara City College. We're inviting high school students from Santa Barbara Unified and CARP Unified to come up. I would invite everyone watching and on the dais to go check it out. It's a great day of just communicating with each other, connecting with students, and just really giving them hopefully a place where they feel welcomed and just have a good time. It was a great experience for me last year to be able to attend as a staff member and also as a board member. But so I would encourage you all to attend as well. And that should be from 9 to 1 at SBCC. If you need parking passes, board, let me know and I can hook you up.
Thank you, and that is a great day because it is my birthday, I have to say. Okay, so do we have any other future agenda items? Yes.
I don't have a future agenda item, but just to announce for in honor of Black History Month, there is an Afro-Brazilian art exhibit in the Channing Peak Gallery that's located at 105 East Anthem, the Santa Barbara County Administrative Building, and it runs through March 3rd.
All right, thank you. Future agenda items? I do. So I would like to just get a sort of a feedback on the task force for OAS, where we stand in terms of where we're moving in that direction. So some sort of report back, Mr. Matsuoka.
Quick updates. I've been in conversation with Principal Naughton at Monroe.
I really don't think we can talk about that right now.
Okay.
I think it needs
It's
to be
kind of like
agendized.
a future agenda item, but I look forward to that in 2 weeks. Mr. Paredes Ulloa.
Sorry, I went to a meeting this morning and I just remembered what I was going to say for the future agenda items. It'd be nice to be able to actually maybe get somebody from juvenile probation down here to do a presentation, just a discussion item. I met with Aaron Cross this morning, and it'd just be nice to hear what's the status with our students, especially from Santa Barbara Unified. What are some of the programs going on up there at Los Prietos? Again, just to get a nice little update and just kind of recognize that those students may not be on our campuses right now, but they eventually do come back at some point.
Great. Could you send that to me in an email? That would be
Yes,
perfect.
yes, I can. Mm-hmm.
All right. Anything else? All right. Well, I think it's time to adjourn this meeting. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.